Hello, mathematicians. My name is Sam, and I will be guiding you through this Kittitas Valley Math Circles lesson plan. Today, we will be working with pennies. We are going to look at the probability of getting a head or a tail on pennies. I will explain what heads and tails mean later in this video if you don't know. If you do, you can just skip that part. So, to begin, you are going to need 100 pennies. Pennies are the ones that are kind of like a brassy color. But, you could use quarters, nickels, dimes, or if you have math counters at home that have two different colors on them, you are welcome to use those. I, unfortunately, do not have math counters at home. So, I found 100 pennies, or $1 in pennies, and I have placed them in a container. You will also need to put your pennies or counters in a container. I have a Tupperware here with a lid so I don't lose all my pennies, but a cup, a bowl will do just fine. If you have a Tupperware, you're welcome to use that as well. All right, so for this activity, you are going to need 100 pennies, a container, the activity sheet, which is attached to this video, and a pencil and, somewhere to write so you can jot down some notes. To begin, I am going to tell you the instructions of how to complete this activity. In this video, I will not complete the activity. However, I will give you the instructions to. In the next video, I will complete the activity and ask probing questions or questions to get you thinking about some probability of pennies. All right, mathematicians, so if you know which side of the penny is heads and tails, you can fast forward a little bit. If you don't, I'm going to go over it. Coins have two sides. Side 1 is called heads, side 2 is called tails. The side that's called heads has a little silhouette on it. I don't think you can see that, but it's an outline of Abraham Lincoln's head. Each coin has a different person's silhouette, but if you can see an outline of a head, that's the side that we call heads. The other side is called tails. So remember, there are two sides to coins. One is heads, one is tails. Heads you can identify by seeing a silhouette or an outline of a person. Side 2 is called tails, and it's the side that doesn't have a head on it. All right, let's go over the instructions for this activity. You are going to need to place all 100 pennies or counters into your container. Once you have done that, you are going to shake your coins up in your container so they're all mixed up. Then, on a flat surface, you are going to spread out your pennies. You're just going to dump them all out, move them around, but don't flip any over. Once you have all of your pennies out on a flat surface or table, you're going to separate them into two groups. Group 1 will be all of the heads. Group 2 will be all of the tails. So, what we have done so far is we've shaken our pennies, we've laid them out, and we've separated them into two groups. You are going to now count those two groups and write them down on your scratch piece of paper with your pencil or pen. This way we can keep track. Once you have separated them and written down how many are in each pile, you're going to take the new pile of pennies that all have heads up, you're going to put them back in your container. We're going to repeat. We're going to shake them all up. We're going to spread them out. We're going to separate them into two groups. Group 1 is tails. Group 2 is heads. We're going to separate them. We're going to count them. We're going to write it down. We're going to take the pile of pennies with heads facing up. We're going to put them back in our container, and we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going till there is no more pennies left in our container. This whole time, and it is so important that you write down how many pennies are in each group for each round of shaking. So each trial or round will be determined by when you start shaking. That'll be how you know which round it is. Over the course of doing this, you are going to see the group of pennies that you're putting back in your container go down. This is because by the end, we want 0 pennies in our container. On our activity sheet, we have a table on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, we have a graph. We are going to take the information that you wrote down on your scratch piece of paper. All right. We are going to transfer the information that you wrote down on your scratch piece of paper onto our table. Our table is found in our document that has a table on the left side and on the right side a graph. Our table, the first column on the left-hand side, says times flipped. Those are your trials or rounds. So when it says times flipped 1, that means I've shooken up my container 1 time. Then in our next column, it says game 1. A game is when you start with 100 and go all the way down to 0. You are going to play this game, or our shaking activity, a total of 3 times. This way we can look at all of the data. So you are going to do a number of rounds 3 times, starting with 100 pennies, shaking it, spreading it out, sorting them, putting it back in, shaking it, all the way till you start with 100 down to 0 pennies. It is important, my mathematicians, that you don't lose any pennies while doing this. In the next video, I will explain how we transfer our data from our table into our graph. Then we will look at it and analyze for some mathematical observations we have. All right, mathematicians, this is how you start and set up our penny activity. Go ahead and find your 100 pennies in your Tupperware and get started. I'll see you in the next video when we continue looking at probability of pennies.